I'm not saying Robert Kirkman got the idea from us.
I'm not saying that either.
But there's no way to prove that he didn't.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
I think quality control issues is the name of our podcast moving forward.
Why is that?
Well, we had that corrupted file a couple weeks ago. I recorded an episode to be aired in a few weeks. Yesterday is when I recorded it, and it's full of echo. And we have all of the air conditioning vents because I don't want to turn them off. And I see how many people have such sophisticated setups with dedicated microphones and recorders and all that. And
sure.
And I mean, I don't think we need it. I don't think our quality is terrible, but I do know that in the span of listening, and honestly, over the span of an hour, people aren't even going to notice it when the AC cycles off and then cycles back on again. I notice it in the files.
Sure.
But I don't think it's detracting. Maybe it is. Maybe people can say, hey, I hate that part of your podcast. And we could say, sorry, holy shit, was that just a firework?
Maybe.
They still keep going. Have you noticed? Like every once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while.
Not like a full wall-rattling construction. Like, we don't have control over what happens on the outside of the studio.
That's true.
So when they are hopefully repaving the street, as opposed to just tearing it up, we're not notified in advance.
No.
Except we do when things start to rattle. And you wouldn't think that a billion-dollar recording studio would rattle.
I mean, this is what happens when you don't pay out for the trillion-dollar recording studio like a real professional would.
But that's what our Patreon is for, our trillion-dollar recording studio.
It's up to the patrons, then.
I guess. Yeah, that's right. If you want better sound quality, it's up to you. It's all up to you. You know, Dal, if you put a gun to my head and asked me to name all of the Fantastic Four #1 variants...
That's not what I would do if I put a gun to your head.
I don't figure you'd talk at all. I mean, at that point...
I mean, if I had questions I wanted you to answer, it certainly wouldn't be that.
Yeah, but...
I don't care that much about the Fantastic Four to need to put a gun to your head to get an answer.
At the point you're pulling a gun on me, do you think you have questions, or are you just tired of the answers?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's only one way to find out, right?
Cross that bridge when we shoot at it.
Anyway.
But isn't FOC this week?
For the Fantastic Four #1?
Yeah.
I believe.
And when I say FOC, I mean Final Order Cutoff, where we have to lock our orders in.
I think so, yeah.
They've announced more and more, and in the most recent Marvel mailer, it had, I can't tell you. That information is not to be shared.
Oops. Do we have to go to a panel at San Diego Comic-Con?
Probably. That is literally a thing I was going to get to. But there's so many covers.
There really are. And it's super helpful when a lot of them are gated behind a threshold that we would never in a million years clear. Like the Art Germ variants, where our Stanley Art Germ Lau is doing 4 covers, one for each of the Fantastic Four members, all in a minimal or virgin trade dress.
Mm-hmm.
Each of those covers is behind a threshold where you have to order 275% of your Avengers #3 numbers of the main cover to be able to order any of the Art Germ variants. And holy shit, would we never do that.
Never come close. Not only that, I just counted...
Avengers is our #1 Marvel comic right now, so the idea that we would need 275% of those numbers of a different book and then get the variants is a ridiculous Marvel scheme.
Certainly in the history of Challengers, when there was an ongoing Fantastic Four comic book, it didn't come close to Avengers numbers.
No, and I mean, look, I'm fairly excited about Fantastic Four #1. I think Sarah Pichelli's an incredibly talented artist. I think Dan Slott's done really fun stuff at Marvel over the years. But I look at the sell-through on Tony Stark Iron Man, which I think is a solid book, and is doing okay numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's doing significantly better than the Brian Michael Bendis Iron Man did.
But I don't, for a second, think that we would need over 200 copies of Fantastic Four #1 before we get to the variants.
Yeah.
Because assume that most of the people who are going to be getting like if we got the Art Germ variants, which frankly are some of the only covers I would think we would get, and I looked into it and that's how I found out what the scheme is.
Yeah.
People would get the 4 Art Germ variants, and that might be it. They're not even going to get the Esad Ribic main cover.
Well, I don't know if that's the case, because I counted Catwoman today.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many Art Germ variants we sold for Catwoman? And keep in mind, Art Germ, when he does the minimal trade dress DC variants, they're usually very sought after.
Yeah, for like Supergirl, there were stores that were ordering like hundreds of copies just that variant.
Do you know how many we sold?
20 maybe?
I thought it was 3.
No, it's definitely more than that.
How many did we get? Show me on your fingers. Oh, okay. My mistake. It was 23.
Okay. Yeah, because we did... For the rack, I think we did an equal quantity for the Art Germ variant and the Joelle main cover.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we did more of the Joelle cover overall because we did subscriber numbers with just the Joelle cover.
Okay. I see.
So it was like for the Joelle cover and then for the Art Germ cover, so
right.
They were similar.
Well, actually, isn't it less because didn't we tack on the blank cover as well?
We tacked on the blank cover.
Okay, it wasn't part of the initial number.
I think we adjust our number to have those as a little bit of a
well,
garnish.
we have only single digits of the Joelle cover left.
Is that right? In the 2 spots?
In the 2 spots,
wow,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And we have a stack of the Art Germ
Interesting
cover. Yeah, I know, right? So
this is why I hate gambling on those.
This plays into that because this week's new book,
Superman's.
The David Mack color is dramatically outselling the Adam Hughes cover.
Yeah, and that was one that you're like, no more David Mack.
Yeah, who would have thought that?
Not me.
Who would have thought that?
If I had to choose, I would. 9 times out of 10, I would choose the Adam Hughes cover. The 10th time is like, I'm sick of this Adam Hughes cover. Let me get something else.
And granted, it's not a great Adam Hughes cover, but it's not a great David Mack cover either.
No,
we sold a couple more David Macks today.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, I didn't even order it.
Yeah.
You had to add it on.
I don't like chasing variants because it's so unpredictable. Just when we think we've got a handle on it and can order appropriately, no, this is one no one cares about.
We had a foreign gentleman in today who wanted to know if he could order and have us ship to whatever his home country is variant covers. I'm like, that's a double no, sir.
Yeah.
We're not going to ship them out to you, and we're not going to get them.
No.
We had a bunch of questions for books we don't have today. Like, get this, Dark Tower books.
You know they're actually reoffering them?
Are they?
That might be where people are hearing about it.
Okay.
A new publisher. They were on the Diamond New to order yesterday or today because there's a new publisher who's re-releasing them in, I think, maybe different formats.
Weird. But, like, you still get those in the Marvel deep discount sales.
Not anymore, I guess.
When it's matched to, like, here, you get a free whatever.
Yep, you get a free The Drawing of 3 hardcover.
Oh, what else?
Have 5 of those.
There was a woman who was looking for an author, anything this author does, and anything that she had done, Diamond no longer had from 2013 up through 2017.
What a surprise.
But Baker and Taylor had 4 of her books.
Okay.
So I threw a couple things. We already have some things in a cart going.
Cool. Which
is weird because we got a Baker and Taylor order today.
2
copies of Be a Star, Wonder Woman.
Oh, neat. Okay.
That's
something we had
the
in back
entire order.
All right.
Yeah, so not only...
They do that. Anytime a title fills on back order, they don't just, like, accumulate it. It's just like, here you go. It's going out. All right.
So we got the Diamond reorder, we got an Entertainment Earth order, and we got a...
Oh, that Entertainment Earth order came in already.
Yeah, so we got Deadpool restock and
I don't imagine
Avengers restock.
You emailed that guy about those figures?
What guy?
What was the Entertainment Earth order?
There was an Avengers box and a Deadpool box.
Oh, right. Okay, I thought it was the solo figures for that special order.
No.
Which was, I was surprised. I'm like, man, I placed that order like 2 days ago. How did it get here this fast?
Nope, it was a different thing.
Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
Because I'm like, I looked in the book, there were no...
It was Deadpool Series 1 and what was the other one? Avengers Infinity War?
Yeah.
Okay. Just after we got an Infinity War restock from another supplier.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
That's all right. We sold a Black Knight. We sold a...
that's cool.
Black Widow.
Assume that second Thor's definitely going to sell. People kept asking about him.
And then...
what do we have now, like 9 Wasps?
I didn't even look. And then Baker and Taylor as well.
Okay.
So it was a day full of reorders.
Neat.
Yeah, it sold a bunch of the WWE pops.
Okay, cool.
Not a bunch, but an Angle, then the 2 Slaughters.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen this meme going around, but it's Siri, show me toxic masculinity, and then it's different photos. Where it started from was there's a woman, and this is not comic related, but there was a woman sports broadcaster on the field interviewing a baseball player, and she's in heels, and he's standing on an overturned bucket so he can be taller than her. Okay, but out of context, that looks like a dumb thing, but it was actually a joke between them, and she was part of it.
That's cool.
And encouraged it. So while people are going after this baseball player for his insecurity.
Out of context, it just seems like a dumb masculine power play. Like, I've got to be taller than her or whatever. And I'm like, you don't.
But
it's the thing where they dig a little hole for Tom Cruise's scene partners to stand in, so he can look like he's at least as tall as them, if not taller, when he is definitely.
Like Scott of the Antarctic from Monty Python, where he was strapped to boxes and she was in a trench. But the funniest one I saw was Siri, show me toxic masculinity, and it was a Triple H entrance when he's in his King of Kings skull mask with a sword and all these scantily clad warriors
like
with him.
WrestleMania entrance?
Yeah. Pretty funny. Because the reason I thought of that story now is because that pop vinyl we have is
that was the Triple H pop we just got in.
The King of Kings
in that
pop.
costume.
Yeah. Still have the Hardys 2-pack, which is interesting. But who knows? Who knows? And I think it's weird that we haven't gotten the other members of the New Girl cast when we got Jessica Day a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, peculiar.
Yeah. With your post on Instagram about the figures we have, still got a slew of questions.
Sure.
Nobody asked to buy them, but all random other toy questions built off of that, like, hey, when is this series coming out? When are you going to restock Deathlock or whatever?
Why do people think that would be the way to communicate that question?
I don't know. It's so, I mean, specifically for the questions we had for the Marvel Legends figures, I would eventually answer them.
Sure.
I just left all these go.
Yeah, it's not. You're just shouting at the internet. I mean, that's not what those posts are for.
Right, but what I feel bad about it is because Samantha has all the logins to this stuff for the social media posts she does and the stories she does. She gets notifications. Like, I have to go looking for this stuff because I turn all notifications off, but she'll get a notification that these questions are being asked.
I can stop posting this stuff.
No. It obviously it works and sells. It's you are not the problem.
Okay.
In this one instance.
I mean, I feel bad that like this is a nuisance, but the only way to make it not a nuisance, I think, is to stop doing it.
I mean, the only way to make it not a nuisance is to turn off the internet.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
I didn't suggest a solution that was impossible. I suggested a solution we could actually do.
Yes,
but I don't know that it's a beneficial solution to us.
You specifically have seen results to the posts that you've made.
It's true.
So it would be counterproductive.
For a business, certainly.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a very stupid hassle.
So, Dal, this next thing we're going to talk about is already going to have happened by the time this episode goes up.
Okay.
But if you recall...
TFCon Canada.
At the beginning of TFCon Canada, I said I wanted all the Tim Hortons exclusives... And, no. At the beginning of the World Cup, I had said that they were going to show the new Doctor Who trailer during England's first match.
Yeah, which was 8 months ago? Was that
Something
when the
like
World
that.
Cup started? It seems like 8 months ago.
I misinterpreted the information I was given. In fact, it is being shown
finals?
during the final.
Oh, Sunday.
It'll be Sunday afternoon our time, so everyone will already have seen it and reveled in it and gotten excited and hopefully found out the release date that I said of October 6th is legit.
So if that's true, if it's coming out in October, the new series, that's 3 months. How long do you think this trailer is going to be?
Oh, 30 seconds.
Your guess, 30 seconds? Yeah. Really, that's it?
I mean, I think it's just a teaser.
Okay. Do you think they'll show the rest at San Diego?
I honestly thought they were going to hold it until San Diego, but I'm sure they'll have more. They'll have the cast. They won't have Chris Hardwick.
No.
They've also announced all of the first waves of merchandise, the 13th Doctor figures and things.
Sure.
And while I did order for the store one of the Rock Candy 13th Doctor figures, everything else they're doing, well, honestly, it's because the first thing I'd ever seen.
Right.
Everything else they're doing is not disappointing, but out of scale.
Like they're not going to do something that fits with your...
6-inch guys,
12 plus Doctors.
Yeah, so for example, they're releasing both a Titan and a Kawaii.
Okay.
That are 5 inches.
Oh, that's their
That's,
supersized
yeah,
ones.
significantly taller than everything else.
Yeah, weird.
They are doing a pop vinyl.
But I'm sure they'll get to the rest of them.
Yeah, I hope so. And the first action figure that they announced is 10 inches.
Yeah, I guess the thing with the Titans and the Kawaii stuff is that they're doing them oversized because they're available singly. I don't think know enough about the rest of the show to do a full wave of 13th Doctor Titan figures.
And if they did just a 13th Doctor Titan
9
figure,
designs to put in a box,
they would be hurting sales for...
Yeah, they're not going to release one $10 boxed tiny figure.
Well, I've given up on getting the Doctor Who Titans for myself, but I would get a in-scale Kawaii.
Well, I guarantee you that they'll do one at some point as part of some series, and you can always order it from somebody on eBay.
It's going to
if
have
necessary.
to be. We're not carrying those anymore.
No.
There's no payoff. The box of Kawais we got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I bought most of them, and we've sold one since then.
Huh.
And they're marked. Like, it's all like the ones we have left for the shelf are like were 9, 10, and 11.
Those seem like popular actors.
Yeah. So if we can't sell those, we can't sell at all. You had a neat find for me this week at Walgreens of all places.
Yeah, the Moon Knight pop vinyl that was exclusive to Walgreens.
Yeah, an exclusive Moon Knight pop vinyl that I'd never heard of before.
It was in his classic original costume.
Which is not super different than his costume now. He just got more black in the new one.
Yeah, I just wanted to specify that this was the original costume, so it's a lot simpler and cleaner than some of the more recent designs that have included different types of
they
lines.
could do a Mr. Knight pop.
I would love a Mr. Knight pop.
Right?
I might buy a Mr. Knight pop.
They could do the new costume.
Mm-hmm.
So right now he's romancing Jessica Day. She likes the damage guys.
Sure. I think when I look at Stephen Grant, I can see a little Nick Miller in that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's more Nick Miller and Jake Lockley.
He's not that bad.
I mean...
He's not that bad.
I think Stephen Grant would be the last one I picked. Like, Stephen Grant is more like Russell.
Sure,
That was that dude's name, right?
Sure, why not?
You know who I'm talking about.
I do.
Dylan McDermott.
Yeah.
Dermot
Mulroney.
Dermot McDillon. That guy. All right, we're getting a little off topic.
Only a little.
Only a little. It's all things that we sell. That counts. But I am already tired of the non-press release press releases we're getting from Marvel for this week. Sir, do you have a question?
No.
Yes, Dal? Question?
I really don't.
I thought you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
I don't.
We've gotten several this week where they give you a title and show you an image and then say, you'll find out the rest in San Diego at this panel or whatever. So far there's the Superior Octopus, which is the Dr. Octopus in the Peter Parker clone body with his Hydra costume on the cover with a tentacle reaching at you. And then there's Ghost Spider, which is Spider-Gwen. I mean, it looks like Spider-Gwen.
Certainly seems like Spider-Gwen.
They'd always told us that's what her name was going to be, right?
That was the name that they had to come up with for her usage in the Marvel Rising animated series and various spin-off properties. It seems, my guess would be that they are going to be moving Spider-Gwen over to the regular Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
And since we've already got multiple Spider-Women, probably going to be Ghost Spider. In the same way that I think eventually Miles Morales will have a different Spider name.
Yeah, except that he's got an annual coming out that's just Spider-Man.
My guess would be that they are going to announce at San Diego a new Miles Morales series for later in the year, because either that or New York. Because he's got a movie coming out in December. I'm sure they want to have something on the stands that is a Miles Morales comic. Even if it's not like the movie at all, they want to have something that's going to tie into that. So I think the annual is, like a lot of annuals, it's just something to fill a budget. You know, it's going to make X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
It's not meant to reinvent it or turn it into a new direction. It's just, I don't know, Miles Morales fans will spend $5 this month. There you go. End of the year, maybe we give a new creative team a bigger push on Miles Morales as Man-Spider or whatever. And then he fights crime.
How about Spider-Boy?
I doubt it will be Spider-Boy.
I don't know. But then he could join the Legion of Superheroes.
Spider-Lad. Spider-Lad's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know who still owns that one, though.
Was there another Marvel one I missed this week? I forget.
You've been getting emails I haven't been getting, so
that's true.
Now.
And the Superior Octopus was starts, parentheses, and ends, in October.
Doc October is what they said. That
Was it?
that
Oh,
was
Doc
the pun.
October.
Get
Okay.
it? It's Doc October.
I see. Yeah.
Get it?
I will say I did get a Marvel press release about the Hidden Gem Fantastic Four Kirby variant cover. I guess a little bit before it broke elsewhere. Like it was on other sites, tied out and put it on the beat. But I actually got that press release slightly early.
Okay. Hidden Gem, is that just what they call the remastered covers they've been doing?
I guess
Where
so.
they take a little piece of like
And
McFarlane Venom art and
really
say it's
not a
1
great
in 5,000, here you go.
And it's a horizontal image.
Maybe it's a wraparound.
Oh, I don't know. I hadn't thought of that. But it's only just like a generic color background with just the four figures.
It's never about the artistry of the cover. It's about that there's only like 10 of them that exist or whatever.
Nowhere in this press release does it say if it's a variant, if it's an open order, if it's a match to.
Oh, man. Like, Marvel and DC both have been doing that lately. Most of the Batman 50 variant covers that were being shown off on sites like CBR never said that they were exclusive to specific locations or websites. It was just, here's a cover by somebody. So if you went into a store and said, great, can I get that Joe Madureira cover? We'd have to go, they're not offering it. I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
Same thing for a lot of the Marvel Fantastic Four variants. It's like when they did the hip-hop ones. They would just go, we're doing these hip-hop covers. So people would go to the stores and go, great, I want all those hip-hop covers. And stores would have to go, we don't qualify for most of these.
Sorry. We had somebody looking for a book today that Donovan and I had never heard of. Mm-hmm. And while looking it up, it's a Kickstarter graphic novel that they haven't even printed yet.
Great.
And it's difficult to say to someone, like, no, that doesn't exist, and you had to buy it just through this one other place.
Right.
Kind of like the DC 100-page Giants. Where did that Justice League come from?
Scott Gerber picked up a copy at a Walmart when he was out of town, and he was giving it to us, but I paid him for it without him knowing about it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice of you. I will say that, and from this week, Superman #1, Flash 50, and Wonder Woman 50. Love the paper. Love it.
Yeah, they've done a good job bringing it back around to what's readable.
It feels lighter. It doesn't reflect the light.
No, it's true.
Yeah, big fan of this paper. This reminds me of when they went back to a thicker like newsprint for Vertigo books or Fables and stuff.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, big fan. It just feels different in your hand. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
As opposed to like X-23, which has that thin Deadpool paper, which was just not good stock, especially for a cover.
Yeah,
however,
I don't love the way Marvel prints most of their books.
No. However, X-23, really good.
Really good. I like a lot of the design work on that. I like how they do the X logo across the Stepford Cuckoos.
Yeah.
Each of them has a portion of it.
So they have to stand in that specific
Well, you
order.
never see them 100% together. So but it's clear that like they split it into fractions. I thought that was a very clever design for a group of identical characters.
And correct me if I'm wrong, no one actually calls her X-23.
Gabby does.
Does she?
In the beginning, in the fight scenes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they call her Laura more than they do X-23, but they never call her Wolverine. And no one brings up that she was the all-new Wolverine.
Or why she would have gone back, or any of that.
Or why she's in a completely different costume now. None of that stuff is addressed in the first issue, which, I mean, might be for the best. Hit the ground running, tell your story, don't worry so much about having to fit it into how did we get from point A to point B. It's just going to slow people down, especially people who might be coming to this book not having read 36 issues of All New Wolverine.
Yeah.
To then have to be told, oh, she was the only Wolverine, and now she's not for these reasons. That happen off-panel. Like, don't, just... It's okay, just tell your story.
I mean, we had a dedicated following for All New Wolverine.
Sure.
But we went a lot higher for X-23 #1.
They offered decent terms.
Pardon me. So hopefully we have new readers jumping in.
I hope so.
They seem to be doing pretty well. This was really a great week for books.
It was.
Unexpectedly. I mean, She Could Fly?
She Could Fly was really good. I like that guy's TV show, so I wasn't too surprised that he could write a good comic, but I thought he handled... He didn't overwrite, which I think is a tendency a lot of TV writers have when they come to comics.
And a lot of writers.
Yeah.
Just going into comics for the first time.
Just not realizing kind of how much should be in a panel before moving on. Like, I think Ta-Nehisi Coates has done a really good job on Black Panther and now Captain America, but I think it definitely took him a number of issues to figure out, like, what is the appropriate pace for a Marvel superhero comic book.
Yeah.
And he got there. I think the last 2 Black Panthers and Cap 1 have been some of his strongest work at that company.
Absolutely agreed. And I believe we talked about She Could Fly a few weeks ago, and you're like, yeah, I really like *Halt and Catch Fire*, but I'm not betting heavy on this book.
Yeah, mostly because most of the Berger books have floundered for us. There hasn't really been one that's broken out or one that we've been excited about. So this was something where, like X-23, we got off a good terms. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll stick my neck out a little bit on this because I think the premise sounds good, and the pre-order numbers from subscribers were a little higher than I'd expected.
Yes, I want to say the highest Berger book we've had.
Yeah, so it seemed like people were responding to the premise, and yeah, so it was nice that it delivered, that we got it, and people seem like they dig it, and everyone at Challengers who's read it liked it. So
yeah,
that's great.
Definitely. Nancy Drew is strong. Number 2 is really good.
It was good. It's a cute book.
It's so much fun.
I like that they go into a thing where they talk about, like, they're just, I like that Kelly Thompson's bringing in interesting stuff to, like, good old Nancy Drew, you know? Stuff like privilege and how like, a girl detective, if she's a white girl detective, that's going to bring a different thing than if she was not a white girl detective. Like, even though she's a girl detective and that maybe pigeonholes her a little bit, she still has privilege over other people. I thought that was an interesting thing to build into that story.
I will say, because I just finally finished the Hawkeye run that she did, there was one line of dialogue that was in both Hawkeye and Nancy Drew.
Uh-oh.
And since I had just read them, like, virtually back to back,
sure.
I'm like, wait a minute. And it's a very simple phrase. When a character is strongly agreeing with somebody, they say, hard same.
Hard same, yes.
So that was in both books.
Okay. Well, that's how the kids talk now, Patrick.
Sure. And it's a thing like, oh, all right, like, that's the first thing that really ties.
Los Angeles or Bayport?
Or Bayport,
Bayport?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Bayport, I want to say, is in Massachusetts.
Okay, so East Coast, West Coast, kids are all the same.
They're the same, yeah.
Monoculture.
Just not their rap. Their rap is totally different.
Okay.
And don't you try to start anything.
I would never.
Amazing Spider-Man number 1. I think it's really interesting, and this is generally spoilery. I'm not giving specifics, but they really reset Spider-Man to a point of mid-'80s Spider-Man.
Kind of, yeah. I definitely feel like they're kind of aiming for, like, a... Not the Michelini stuff exactly, but I felt like it was more beholden to that than nearly any other writer that I can think of.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, well, that's got to be what Nick Spencer grew up on. And for a lot of people who come to Marvel, the stuff that they're writing towards is the stuff that made them interested in these characters in the first place. So they're trying to hit the kind of arcs or epics or creative teams that drew them to these characters in the first place. That's how they think of Spider-Man or Captain America or Thor or the Avengers or whatever.
Yeah.
And obviously they're bringing their own stuff to it, and they're trying to add to that, but I definitely think that has something to do with it. Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man was kind of the opposite of X-23 in that it spends a lot of time getting you from point A to point B, point A being Amazing Spider-Man 800 and point B being Amazing Spider-Man 802. Like, there is a sense of we have to take you from how Dan Slott had things to how this book is going to run.
And so quickly.
I mean, yes and no. Like, they do a lot, but it is an oversized issue, and they kind of spend a lot of pages just doing those things. There's fight scenes and villainy stuff, but
and
not a lot of it.
A ton of Marvel Universe guest stars.
Yeah, but that stuff's kind of around the edges. It's not like a Tony Stark number 1 where it's like, we have to do the beginning, middle, and end of this action-y story. There kind of is that in the villain they're fighting in the A story.
Yeah.
But not really. Kind of a little bit.
And I feel like I need to say this. I liked it.
Yeah,
I really did like it. But it's very different than I expected, even after having read the Free Comic Day Zero.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Which I think that if you didn't read that, you may be a little behind.
Maybe, but I think they catch you up pretty thoroughly.
But they do a thing in this book that Dan Slott earlier this year maybe it wasn't quite this year, but definitely very recently, made a point of saying, this thing can never happen. And then it happens.
That's a stupid thing for Dan Slott to say.
Okay.
I mean, I can see why he might think that as a writer and why he would never write that story. It was inevitable. I don't know that I was expecting it in Amazing Spider-Man #1, but
yeah.
Oh my God, yes. That's like if Jim Starlin had said after Jason Todd got blown up, there will never be another Robin. Like, you can say you wouldn't write that, but you're dumb if you think that's the end of that story.
Sure.
That no writer's going to be like, I got an idea for that. Most writers will have an idea for that. So yeah, this Amazing Spider-Man thing, no.
Oh, that reminds me.
I mean, it's not Uncle Ben coming back to life, but it's definitely a thing where it's like, yeah, they'll do that again. Sure they will.
We had a guy in today who was looking at Dark Knight 3.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, do I need to read 1 and 2 for this? I'm like, yeah, you really should.
It would help.
He's like, oh, alright, so what is this? And he'd grabbed, and I don't even know what it was, but it was a hardcover that Brian Azzarello had written. I'm like, that is not part of...
Was it the Joker one-shot?
No, it was I didn't recognize the cover dress. It might have just been like a repackaging of something. And I didn't have my glasses on. He was at a distance, so I couldn't tell what it was. I'm like, that is not part of the 3. And then he said like, oh, it's just written by Brian though. I'm like, oh, that's why you want Dark Knight 3.
Okay.
You were a Brian Azzarello fan. You're not.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm like then maybe you don't want 3. Maybe that's not what you want to do. Wow, that's 2 weeks in a row we brought up Dark Knight 3.
Weird.
Yeah, that's like saying mock kick for no reason.
Especially for a book I didn't even finish reading. I think I read issue 1. I was not a fan, and I thought, I don't need to read more of this.
I have yet to finish it.
Yeah, but I knew after reading issue 1, I'm like, I don't want to read 2 through 9, and there's no reason for me to read 2
Which
through
is
9.
weird, because that Kubert brother is one of your favorite artists of all time.
Disagree.
Is it
not even my favorite Kubert?
Is it the other one?
Yeah, Adam. Of the 2 brothers, Adam is the one I prefer.
I know, Dal. I was making a joke.
Were you? Okay.
I was going to bring it to Jason Fabok next.
Okay.
The favorite pinup of yours from Batman 50?
Favorite anything.
Right. I mean, it even nudged out the Frank Miller one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Alright, so Amazing Spider-Man #1, then Superman #1.
Yep.
Real good.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I like Bendis' Superman.
Yeah. It's working.
There's a thing, though, that I don't know that I love. Without getting too spoilery on it, there's a point where Justice League member Martian Manhunter shows up and has a conversation with Superman.
Yeah.
And it seems very much one of those Bendis-y thesis statement monologues, where characters basically saying what this book is going to be about, or what this storyline is going to be about, or what... Like, it's basically what Bendis says in an interview with John Suntress, or CBR, or Entertainment Weekly, put into the mouth of a DC superhero. And I don't know that I like it, A, in the book, B, from that character. Like,
It did feel completely out of character for Martian Manhunter to say this.
Totally out of character, especially because they acknowledge, like, Martian Manhunter's the heart and soul of the Justice League. And then he's going to say this thing that's like, oh, that's like what a supervillain would say. Martian Manhunter, I don't think he would think that, or say that out loud, or ask
Especially
Superman to do that.
as the leader of the Justice League.
Yeah. Which is weird because I think Bendis has gotten Superman 100% right for me as a reader, but I feel like nearly any time another Justice League character shows up, I'm like, oh, wrong, no. Like Barry Allen, The Flash, basically talks like Hawkeye. Boy Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no. Wrong.
He's a scientist.
Yeah. He's not the like, I mean, if you're writing TV or movie Flash, okay, fine, but like DC Universe Flash, I don't think so. So yeah, and the Martian Manhunter stuff is the one kind of stumbling block for me in Superman #1, where I'm like, I don't ever want to do the like that character wouldn't say that, because these characters don't exist. They're fictional characters. They're written by a writer. Characters have been written 100 different ways, especially ones who have been around for over 60 years. But reading this, I'm like, I don't think Martian Manhunter would ask Superman to do that.
I understand why he needed that character to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a longer part of their conversation, and the beginning part is very like, we are two people who have gone through similar things. Now that we know about Rogol Zar and what that meant for Krypton, that changes the way that Superman and Martian Manhunter are survivors of doomed planets. Like, now they have a symmetry to their origins. that means Martian Manhunter can say to Superman, hey, I think you should do this thing. And it's like, oh, man. And yet, at the same time, I'm like, Superman's reaction in that moment, in that conversation, I'm like, dead on. Exactly perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect response, perfectly nuanced. Like, hits all the levels you need it to. But I wish to God it wasn't Martian Manhunter asking him this, because I'm like, no.
But as you pointed out, like, that's clearly the direction the story's going to take.
For sure.
Which is going to be a delicate...
We'll see. The Superman response made me think this is a story Bendis could tell. It's just the Martian Manhunter thing was like, nope. Don't feel like you got a handle on that character.
In a previous Word Balloon episode, because there was a brand new Bendis one last week, which I haven't listened to yet.
Is he just... Are they just going to do like a weekly Bendis tapes?
No, I mean, it's been a couple months. Okay. I mean, the last one was all about his illness and his choices to leave Marvel.
Lots to talk about there.
And they knew... Well, they knew this one was coming.
Sure.
But he had talked about...
They put ads everywhere.
That's true. He talked about his initial conversation with Dan DiDio about Superman, and he'd said to Dan, hey, has anybody ever done this with Superman? And Dan's like, no, do it. So I never assumed it was the Rogel Czar storyline. I assume it's what's coming up.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, what we assume is coming up, which is a thing that has been done with other characters and other super teams in other universes.
Sure, frankly, Superman in other universes has done it multiple times.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, but so I'm interested to see like the shock reveal at the end of the first issue definitely leads into action. Like the cover to Action 1001 talks about what's happening.
The Action Comics is the arson stuff, right?
Not necessarily.
I thought so. I thought the solicits for Action were largely the journalist Clark Kent has to get to the bottom of the mysterious wave of arsons in Metropolis.
But the bigger picture is where Metropolis is right now.
Right, but I don't know if that's going to be in Action Comics.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems like a dumb idea.
Yeah, we didn't expect it's going to bounce back and forth.
No, it shouldn't, frankly. That seems like a really bad idea story-wise.
Could you focus just on the arson storyline, knowing what's going on with Superman? Because of how dramatic that thing is?
You don't have to pretend that everything's happening at the exact same time.
Okay.
I mean, frankly, that's been superhero comics for the last, decade. Hey, Wolverine's in space in this comic, but he's in Madripoor in this comic, and they're coming out the exact same week. I don't know, they don't happen at the same time.
Yeah, in the current issue of Squirrel Girl, lawyer Jennifer Walters is in it. She-Hulk in a suit is in it, but that's not the She-Hulk we have in Avengers.
Nope.
But also, Squirrel Girl can really operate in its own world. I believe Kraven has been other places in the Marvel Universe at the same time he's been a regular supporting member of her book.
Maybe.
Sergei Alexandrov Kravenov. Did you kill Spider-Man? I was referencing the current Squirrel Girl.
I read it today. I know what you were referencing.
Okay. Which is weird for me to reference because I'm so far behind. But I'm referencing Donovan, referencing it.
Mm-hmm.
I just found out that Mike Norton's going to go to San Diego this year.
Cool.
He's got a new project announcement, and he's got a bunch of signings and a bunch of panels. A lot of his signings are at the Comixology booth.
Okay.
Because we know that he's doing one of their originals.
That's true.
I wonder if that's the new project announcement.
Maybe.
I mention Mike Norton because he will be appearing at Challengers, which I know is rare. I know it's a thing that doesn't happen often. But he will be at Challengers on Wednesday, August 22nd for a 2-part event for the release of the Lil Donnie Volume 1 collection. He'll be signing from 5 to 7.
Okay.
And then after hours from 7 o'clock to whenever, he'll be participating in a in-store recording of Word Balloon.
Okay.
With the aforementioned John Suntress.
Cool.
I believe it is a Bendis-less episode.
We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was ironed out today. So
cool.
Dal is hearing it and about it the same time you are, listener.
Yay!
Everybody hears things together. And then we also have more information, which I don't think we talked about at all. Batman Day is coming up on Saturday, September 15th. Last year it was preempted by Harley Quinn Day, but it is the return of Batman Day, and as per usual, we will have all sorts of Bat-related fun for the store. We will have artists doing sketches, including Luke Smarto and Tom Kelly. We will have cosplayers, well, as of now, cosplayer, but I assume there'll be more. We will have, I assume, a free Batman comic. I don't think they've mentioned it yet.
They have. It's
have they?
a reprint of Batman White Knight #1.
Really?
Yep.
That's an interesting choice.
I think the hardcover comes out a few weeks after that.
Is that real all ages appropriate?
Ish.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Huh. I wonder if they're doing like variant covers and stuff too.
Maybe if you order, 10,000 copies.
Well, I just remember the last couple of Batman and or Harley Quinn days, they've had multiple books.
I mean, they might announce more stuff this weekend.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
This coming Wednesday, Thursday is the retailer summit.
Yeah.
So maybe DC will say then.
And while we're talking about events, the next one we actually have is Junior Braves of the Apocalypse signing with Zach Lehner on Wednesday, August 8th, and he will be at the store for most, if not all, of the day.
Cool.
We'll have hardcovers and soft covers of both Volumes 1 and Volume 2.
Neat.
So up until this point, only a hardcover of 1 is available. So that'll be like 3 new books are available that day.
Cool.
I mean, same insides, but there's that. And there's our usual Challengers things as well, like the Correspondence Club, which meets this Thursday, July 18th. And I believe Donovan has selected Ryan North as the recipient.
July 19th.
July 19th. This Thursday, July 19th. And Ryan North will be the recipient of the letters this time. But of course, you're welcome to write to whomever you want.
Cool.
And on the 30th, Monday the 30th, is My Boyfriend is a Bear? That sounds right to me. Yeah, because that Wednesday is the 1st.
Yep.
Yeah, the graphic novel book club for My Boyfriend is a Bear. And we have a free minor giveaway for anyone who attends, thanks to our good friends at Oni Press. And that is the events we have coming up, which I didn't necessarily intend to mention right now, but the segue was interesting with the Mike Norton part. I thought it kind of worked.
Sure.
Kind of flowed. There have been a bunch of announcements leading up to San Diego because in years past the publishers realized that the major traction comes from media and movie studios and TV.
It'll be interesting to see if that's the case this year. There's a bunch of major movie studios and movie franchises that are opting out of San Diego this year. So I kind of don't know what the news situation is going to be like for publishers. They may get a little bit more bandwidth.
Boom Studios every year now does 10 days leading up to with 10 announcements. And there's some big announcements and some smaller announcements and some personnel announcements and whatnot. But that's a lot of stuttering for this next sentence. But Skybound has announced a project that you and I have known about for quite some time. And we've been waiting for this announcement. And even after the last Image Expo came and went and it didn't get announced, we're like, why didn't this get announced? Is this still happening?
Why not?
And we talked to the creator. He's like, yeah, it's coming. And it is Anybody Who Is a Fan of Extremity by Daniel Warren Johnson. His next book was officially announced, and it sounds like it was made just for me. And it's called
Murder Falcon.
Murder Falcon. And it is a heavy metal themed comic book with aliens and metal and shredding guitars and crime fighting.
An alien warrior shows up to save the planet Earth, but he needs the power of metal to make him stronger.
I mean, who doesn't? Am I right?
Yeah.
Man, that's why weekends are so powerful, because we have, like, Lizzie Borden playing all the time.
That's exactly it.
And yes, Lizzie Borden does count as metal. Nobody would say otherwise.
Speaking of Skybound, there was a bit of a huge piece of news that happened between this episode and last episode.
Yeah.
An entire comic book got announced and released by Skybound with no forewarning. Robert Kirkman, his previous Walking Dead showrunner Scott M. Gimple, Chris Burnham, and
I believe it's Christopher Durham.
Christopher Durham, and Nathan Fairbairn released a brand new Skybound series called Die, Die, Die. And there was no announcement about it. Retailers opened up their weekly shipment and found copies of the book. It was something that we had talked about on an episode of Contest of Challengers.
And I went back and I couldn't find what episode, and I wanted to dig further through specifically the Yak Channel documents I have.
Sure.
But as you were aware, my computer had restarted and was updating when I got home, so I could not...
Maybe you'll find out. If not, listener, maybe you know. So if anyone listening to this does know what episode we were talking about, the idea of could you do a...
stealth launch.
Yeah, a stealth launch. A Beyonce style... The project just drops. There's no warning. There's just a notice that's like, hey, it's available now, go get it. Could you do that with print comics? Was something we talked about months back.
From Contest of Challengers number 275, August 29th, 2016.
Do you think, barring all the logistics, it would be advantageous for the comics industry to do this once or twice? How could it ever work for comics?
I think it's more creator dependent than character dependent. And now back to the present.
I mean, without remembering the whole conversation, I think one of the things we kind of landed on is the publisher has to take all the risk on this.
Yeah.
Because retailers are not going to, as we found with X Classified, are not going to order something blind. They're not just going to say, give me 100 copies of whatever comic this is. It matters who's doing it, what genre it's in, what it's called, what the cover looks like, how much it costs. All that stuff matters. The day it's coming out matters. So for this to work as a concept, you need a publisher like Image, and specifically an imprint like Skybound, that can basically front the cost for it. That can produce the book, can commission it, can produce it, can print it, can ship it, all without asking the retailers for a dime up front.
I'm not
to
saying...
make sure that copies go on the shelves.
I'm not saying Robert Kirkman got the idea from us.
I'm not saying that either.
But there's no way to prove that he didn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't... I don't think it was a unique idea of mine. I think it was like a lot of people, you look around and go, okay, so when, Beyonce or Jay-Z or Kanye or Frank Ocean or whoever releases an album like that, like out of nowhere, there's rumors that they're working on something maybe, but then there's just like, it's a Friday, it's Thursday at midnight, it's out, here's a tweet or an Instagram post, go get it. It's easy to do that. This is
almost a U2 thing where it shows up in your iTunes.
Yeah, kind of. People hated that though. Yep. It's easy to do that digitally, or easier to do it digitally, because it really is just a matter of flicking a switch on a store. Saying, okay, go get it. Making it available in print means you have to, again, as a publisher, commission this work ahead of time and not solicit any numbers. So you have no idea what the consumer, i.e. store, interest is going to be in this book. You don't get to hype it up. You don't get to create buzz for it to get people into the stores. You're basically just hoping that when it hits shelves, it will be surprising enough to generate buzz, to make people excited about it, to get them to either pick it up off the shelf at the store because they've never heard of it and they don't know what's going on, or to get them to go to stores because, oh my God, Robert Kirkman has a new book and it came out today. I can just go buy it.
I think it was smart that they matched it to the numbers of the launch for Oblivion Song.
Yeah.
Which is a recent book. Like, what, they're on number 5?
Yeah, something like that.
So
yeah.
Their numbers are fresh, and I don't think that our numbers would have been terribly different. Maybe a little higher because of Burnham.
I mean, maybe, but yeah, we probably would have ordered it in line with Oblivion Song.
Yeah, and I have to admit that so far there have been a lot of people that don't know anything about it. And it's really easy. Anybody who's buying Oblivion Song today, hey, by the way...
Sure, we were doing it on Wednesday.
Yeah. It's a good crossover, but we also, and I guess luckily, we didn't get that massive influx of speculators saying, I need this book, I gotta have this book.
Yeah, one of the things about it that they did that maybe is more enticing for speculators is that there are 10 variant covers for issue 1 of Die, Die, Die. The cover is the same, but there are different word balloons on it. So... in theory, someone could, get 10 copies of it. We wouldn't let anyone do that. We limit 2 copies per person per day for anything marked new this week.
And you had to have, there was one person who...
One person, I think, was going to get 3 copies, and they're like, no. But no one said, I want 10 covers, or I need all of them.
In fact, several people, when I'd say, oh, did you get the cover you wanted? Didn't realize that they were different.
Yeah. I'm curious how it's going to sell. I only have experience of one day of on sale, and I don't recall it being super exciting for fans.
We still have 3 piles on the shelf.
Yeah, so with the next episode, we might have a clearer idea of what sell-through was like for that book.
And that will have to FOC, obviously.
Yeah.
Probably this week, actually.
I think, yeah. But I'm really curious, because, again, this was something that we talked about months ago as would it work? Could it, logistically could it work, i.e. getting copies to stores in a way that made sense? But also, would people care? Would that be exciting for people? And
Robert Kirkman himself talks about the joy of going to a comic store back in the 80s and never knowing what was coming out.
Yeah. And
that's what he wanted this to be, to be surprised at your shop.
Yeah, and we had talked about it needing to be someone at a high enough level of interest. It couldn't just be, no offense, it couldn't be the team behind Outpost Zero.
Literally the book I was going to use. Literally the whole, nothing against...
It couldn't just be a good book or a good concept. It had to be the sort of people who names alone will get people interested.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, day of release, I don't think we saw a lot of people who were like, what's this new Robert Kirkman book? It wasn't driving people to stores that way. And because word had gotten out Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday people were unpacking their boxes and what's this? And Kirkman and Scott Gimple and Christopher Burnham did, interviews on different websites.
And we watched
promoting
it. IGN had them live Wednesday afternoon, at noon.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were definitely trying to push people on Tuesday of hey, tomorrow, go to your stores. You can buy it then. And, I don't know that I saw a huge response. And it's certainly... The early showing is kind of... I don't know that this helped them. I don't think it hurt them. I don't think it will hurt them. But I'm not seeing a different response than when Oblivion Song came out. And we had, 3 months to tell people about Oblivion Song.
Yeah, I'm glad they did it. I'm happy they did it.
I'm glad someone tried
to see how it goes. And the week before San Diego is a good day to drop it.
Yeah, especially because they'll want to have a variant cover to sell at San Diego.
By the way, the reason we keep calling him Christopher Durnham instead of Burnham is when he used to live in the city and he would call the store, his caller ID would come up as Durnham.
Yeah, Durnham, Christopher.
And he said it's because whoever it was, AT&T or whatever, got it wrong and he never felt like correcting them.
Mm-hmm.
So Durnham is because of caller ID.
Yeah.
His real name is Chris Burnham. Chris Hollywood Burnham now.
Chris Burnham.
Right. And as you pointed out, with Scott Gimple's involvement, it's most likely already sold or licensed or whatever.
When the former showrunner of Walking Dead is involved in a plotting level for a new Kirkman comic book series, I gotta think that's because they already have a writer's room or they already have an idea of what network it's going to be on. This feels like the way that Mark Millar comics come out now, where it's this is in tandem with a live action adaptation.
What were the two... The way you described it, it was this book if they were all Negans?
Oh, John Wick if they were all Negan.
John Wick. I couldn't remember the John Wick part.
Yeah.
I feel like he's trying to do
you could say nearly any spy thing, James Bond or Mission Impossible or whatever, but it definitely, because the whole concept is assassinating people, it's no, it's John Wick. It's a weird John Wick. There's a subculture that's out there assassinating people is very John Wick.
I felt like there were some Warren Ellis influence as well.
A little bit, but that's just for the nihilistic Negan of all of it.
Sure. No one threatened to kill anybody without getting some coffee, though.
Mm-hmm.
Or about not getting coffee.
That's true.
It was. I think it's a fun surprise. I'm like I said before, I'm glad they did it. I think it's neat.
Totally glad someone tried it.
I appreciate all the press they've been doing for it.
Sure.
And to find out that there can be secrets in the comics industry, and this goes from the publisher level, the printing level. I mean, I think there was a thing about we couldn't get our comps right away because of this, but even so, it can be done, and that's great.
Yeah, I wonder if someone else will try it, if another publisher will give it a shot. Again, it feels like a sort of thing that only a few publishers could do. I would be shocked if Marvel ever tried it, because, again, this is a thing where the publisher has to take all the risk, and that's not how Marvel does things. Again, look at X-Classified.
Yeah.
They could have absolutely done it for that. That thing could have come out, the week of X-Men Gold 30. But they were like, no. We're going to make you order blind. B, we're only going to tell you the details of the book that you have to lock in your numbers for 2 weeks before we lock in the numbers. And that's it. And also, we're not going to overprint or overship or any of that stuff. It's on you.
Die also had a run of action figures made in advance for this that they'll be selling at San Diego.
Yeah.
If you buy the fancy silver cover, you get the 2 action figures as part of it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, the lead time for doing action figures, they had this in the works for a long time.
Yep. I also wonder how many...
You don't do action figures in like a weekend, you know?
Like with Farmhand #1 that came out today, or I'm sorry, this week, they give you the covers and the release dates for the first 5 issues. Mm-hmm. So I wonder how far ahead Die is.
Well, Image in general has been asking its creators to have more issues in the can before they solicit.
Yeah.
Because they got tired of first issues coming out and then huge delays with subsequent issues. So they want to make sure that at least the first arc ships on schedule. No matter what that schedule is, it needs to hit those dates. Like, it's cool that Isola puts the date of release on the back of every issue so far.
Yeah.
So they know, when they're compositing the cover, this is when it's coming out. This is when it's going to press. This is when it's hitting stores.
Speaking of Isola, Carl Kiesel, where did that come from?
Carl Kerschel.
Carl Kerschel. Wow. Sorry. Carl Kerschel is moving to Japan for a year.
That's cool.
Yeah.
He might as well. I mean, you can do art from anywhere.
Sure, but as a result, there are some things he needed to unload. So as a result, there are some things I bought for Challengers today.
Oh, Patrick.
I'll tell you a little bit more later.
We don't need a Brendan Fletcher.
Well... Oh, man, I totally forgot. Becky Cloonan had some merch that was going up at 1 o'clock today that I wanted to grab.
Whoops, all gone.
Maybe. There was a cool bandana she was doing, and some koozies and stuff.
Okay.
But, I wanted that bandana. I totally forgot. It was 1 o'clock today. Darn it. I don't mind saying it now, because obviously if my computer ever reboots,
we'll see.
I'll look and see that. We both mentioned Farmhand #1 and Outpost Zero #1, 2 solid Image #1s that came out this week that have a lot of world building and a lot of places they can go.
Sure.
I'm afraid they're going to get overlooked with how much other stuff.
It's inevitable.
And how many big books came out this week, but I would be remiss if we didn't at least ask people to flip through them.
Sure.
Whilst they were in the store next. And looking ahead to a new creative team that we're half excited for, starting in November, the new Wonder Woman writer is G. Willow Wilson.
G. Willow Wilson is going to be taking over Wonder Woman with, did you say November?
Yeah.
Is it November?
Okay. Issue 56, I want to say.
Okay.
So 3 months from now.
Yeah, I think Steve Orlando is doing a few issues in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yes, he is. And then Shea Fontana is doing a storyline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bringing her back. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Carrie Nord, I think, is the initial artist for the G. Willow Wilson run.
Yeah, so that's interesting because he's definitely not a monthly guy, much less a bi-weekly guy.
No, I mean, anyone on a twice-monthly book at DC, assuming it stays twice-monthly, it may not.
Yeah, that's true.
A few different books have shifted to a monthly schedule. But yeah, Carrie Nord's a guy that's done a lot of like Conan-style stuff, so I'll be interested to see what kind of direction Wonder Woman goes in. I think you'd said the first villain she's going to be fighting is Ares.
Yep.
So I guess that's a clue.
Yeah, but I think that G. Willow Wilson is an excellent choice, and I was talking with someone who's like, aren't you worried that she's more of a YA author now? And I said, no.
No. Plus, like, she does YA stuff. I mean, if you look at Ms. Marvel, but, I mean...
Cairo, Air.
Yeah, that wasn't where she started.
But those are not recent books in anybody's memory. Like, you mention her name now, people think Ms. Marvel.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, she's been doing that book for 50 issues. Yeah, sure. But yeah, and people had brought up, like, oh, has she ever done, like, a DC superhero? Like, she did, but it was a long time ago. It was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And it was back when DC books weren't real good, so a lot of people weren't paying attention to them as a publisher, especially smaller characters and limited series. But yeah, I will definitely give Willow Wilson's Wonder Woman a shot, for sure. For sure. Just like you gave us a shot, dear listener. Us being myself, Patrick Brower, and my co-host, W. Dow Bush. That guy over there, I'm pointing, you can't see. Hi.
And this, of course, Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast on the Yak Channel podcast network here in Chicago. And you listened. So thanks.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.